We all know Social Security needs to change. The question is how. A recent economist columnist says one change is inevitable. What is that? Got that and more coming up. My name's Mike Bernard. I'm the host of the Wise Money Show. I'm also one of the certified financial planners right here at Korhorn Financial Group. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and smash that thumbs up button. No matter who you are, how much wealth you've built up, how much planning you've done, and how prepared you are, Social Security is going to be the bedrock to your retirement. It just is. You've been paying into it from your very first paycheck and all the way through your career. And so you've been paying into it, and then there's a benefit, a couple $1,000s a month, or some variation thereof, that's going to pay out for your entire lifetime. And whether you've got lots of other resources and you'll be drawing income off of those, and therefore Social Security is a smaller piece of your retirement or not, the changes and how Social Security, the strength of it, is a very, very important variable for your retirement. In fact, I'd say how you draw Social Security, your Social Security claiming strategy, is one of the most important retirement decisions that you make. Well, the problem is, and you know this, Social Security is broken. We know that Social Security is broken. The original assumptions that were in all the actuarial analysis and everything that went into the math way back when, decades ago, it's just different now. It's just different. And we are on a path towards insolvency, where if things don't change by 2033 is the latest, then Social Security recipients would receive a reduction in their benefits down to about 75% of what they're currently getting or what they're slotted to get. So insolvency doesn't mean Social Security stops and goes away. It just means that the payments, the benefits that you and I would receive are reduced to align with the current funding levels, which is the payroll taxes that people pay. And that would mean about a 25% reduction or a 75% payout on the dollar if things don't change. So we know it needs to change. The question is how? We'll take a look at this. So Social Security, obviously, with the election coming up, it's going to be a hot topic. It's going to be something that is discussed. Same with debt, same with border, all that sort of stuff. So I wouldn't say it's the most important issue, but it certainly will be a topic that both candidates are discussing. And interesting, from this columnist who's an economist, a financial writer, he lays it out pretty well that yes, there's going to be this finger pointing and back and forth. Democrats saying Republicans want to wreck the popular retirement plan, while Republicans are saying Democrats want to keep the program through unsustainable tax increases and so on. And therefore, both sides will be pointing at each other, neither actually able to fix the problem without the other. So here we have this catch-22. But the Republican Study Committee actually came out with a plan or an approach, which those on the other side of the aisle are saying it's extreme. And yet this author, and I actually agree with him when you look at the data, I'll show you in a second, says not only is this suggestion sensible, but it's also inevitable. So what are they suggesting? Well, as you can see here, recently, they published a blueprint for federal spending in 2025, and that included a modest adjustment to the retirement age, determining eligibility for Social Security to account for increases in life expectancy. And it goes on. So here's the data. Okay, we know this happened. The original full retirement age for Social Security had been 65. It was always 65. But back in 1983, Congress passed legislation that would gradually begin to increase that retirement age. Not immediately, but they put it out there in the future. So if you were born after a certain date, so it didn't make an immediate impact on folks, it was down the road. I love that because you're able to plan, right? I obviously wish we didn't have to make any changes, but we're living longer, life's getting better, all these sorts of things that the program needed to adjust for. So 1983, they made this adjustment, and over 30 years, they shifted the retirement age from full retirement age from 65 to 67, a 2-year increase, even though life expectancy in the U.S. during that same 30-year time period increased by 4 years. So there again, and like I'm not advocating one side or the other, but this is sort of the showing that, listen, Social Security is broken, and that's one of the reasons why. So if there's an issue with Social Security and it needs to adjust, there's really 3 ways that adjustments could be made. Raise the taxes that are paid into Social Security and Medicare. Those are FICA taxes. Come back to that. Reduce benefits or redirect money from general taxes into Social Security to funding Social Security, and the author states right here that would create other trade-offs. And obviously any of these will create other trade-offs, right? But that third one is the most unlikely, okay? Therefore, this author and we see the same thing. Likely, the inevitable change is both. That there will be a shifting of the age at which your full retirement age will be determined, likely moving from age 67 to 70. Why did I come up with 70? Why do we think 70? It's a round number. I don't know. So no inherent math, but also likely an increase to the FICA tax and payroll tax that businesses pay. So what do you do? How do you plan ahead? How can you confidently plan ahead for such an uncertain future on such an important part of your financial life? Well, financial planning is all about planning for the certainty of an uncertain future. So it requires an proactive or more proactive financial planning, looking at all 6 areas of your financial life, working with your CFP. What would we tell you to do? Number 1, don't expect a solution here in the short term or a decision here in the short term. I would set your expectation that we're likely, just because of how things operate or don't operate on Capitol Hill, it's unlikely we're going to get a solution until we get right up to the brink of this. So therefore, this uncertainty, this anxiety that you might have, expect it to persist for another 7 to 8 years. That's the first expectation, but that doesn't mean you just sit idle. Then what do? Well, if you're in 2 camps. One, if you are close to retirement, okay, if you're close to retirement, then you need to be working with your certified financial planner and determining the optimum way, the way to optimize your Social Security. What is the best claiming strategy for you? If you are near Social Security, near retirement or drawing Social Security, you need to work with your CFP to determine that optimizing strategy, but then also know what the game plan is to say, okay, if legislation starts turning this way, we're gonna do this, right? And so have that game plan in place. Second, if you are, again, at retirement age, near retirement age, in retirement age, also work with your CFP to just see in your retirement plan what the trade-offs would be, what it would look like if we did see a 25% reduction in Social Security. Guys, I do not think that they will allow Social Security to become insolvent. I think that would be an enormous economic disaster, because that would mean retirees would have 25% that they have in income, and therefore they'd have 25% less that they could spend, and there'd be all sorts of problems. I think they will figure it out, but likely at the last minute. And if it's not at the last minute, if it's after that last minute, you're going to want to see, well, what trade-offs would be required if there was a reduction in my Social Security. So I would do both of those things. If you're near retirement or in retirement, what's the optimal way for you to draw Social Security, claim Social Security, and then also stress test your plan to see what would it look like if there was a 25% reduction in your Social Security. Now, for those of you that aren't near retirement, what should you do? Certainly you need to build out that 5-factor retirement plan, and you need to start talking about, well, what likely will we do with Social Security? If you're still a decade or 2 away from Social Security, you're not going to decide for sure we're going to draw right at 62, or we're going to for sure delay until 70. We're going to for sure draw at full retirement age. It's just still too much could change in your financial life, but you've got to build a base assumption in there. So make sure you have that 5-factor retirement plan so you're working off of a plan. But then second, I would also stress test that to see what happens if Social Security becomes insolvent. Again, that's not the base case, that's not our base assumption, but what would it look like? Therefore, so that you have expectations and can see the range of options, what adjustments, what trade-offs would you need to make. But then second, I would also just be aware and maybe begin planning for the likelihood that FICA taxes could go up 1 to 2%. I've seen the math, I've seen the numbers that Social Security and other economists have come up with, and the thought of right now, FICA tax 7.65% and payroll tax mimics, it's the exact same thing. 6.2% of that is for Social Security. I've seen the math on whether if you increase that 1% on each side. So 7.2% being the Social Security portion, so increasing FICA by 1%, and 7.2% being the Social Security portion on the payroll tax. And that math suggests it could work. That could be the fix to Social Security. So I would stress test that as well in your plan. And then finally, I would look at the assumption that you might need to draw Social Security later. And so again, in that planning, you've got to pick a time. Well, not only stress test that to see if what would your plan look like if Social Security was 25% less, but also what would your plan look like if you were forced to delay Social Security until age 70. So build those three things into your planning if you're still a few years away or retirement still a ways out. All of that, though, you've got to be working with your CFP. So work with your CFP on that so that you can plan ahead for the inevitable changes to Social Security and not be caught off guard. Work with your CFP on that. If you don't have a CFP on your team, contact one on my team. Find us online, Korhorn.com. That's Korhorn with K, wisemoneyshow.com. You can find us there as well, or give us a call, 574-247-5898. All right, there you have it. Go on and take your next wise step in your financial life.